Hello, my name is Jennifer Zeng. I've just watched BBC's 12-minute report about a camp in Xinjiang, and the report titled Inside China's Thought Transformation Camps. Basically, a crew of BBC was allowed to go inside one of the camps in Xinjiang where millions of people are detained. So this BBC reporter was allowed to film how the inmates were living inside the camp. So we saw them dancing, laughing, singing, and painting, and live very happily there. And also the Chinese Communist Party CCP leaders told the reporter, BBC reporter, that this is a perfectly fine, perfect normal vocational school where inmates were trained about how to do beds, how they can make a living or they can find a job after they were released. Of course, they also admitted that they were there to change their extremist thoughts about whatever. After watching this program, as a former labor camp victim, a survivor, I really want to do this video to let you know what really happened in those camps and how the authorities would fake everything to cheat the outside world. Basically, I was detained in Beijing female camp from 2000 and 2001 for practicing Falun Gong, which is a spiritual practice based on 3 principles: truth, compassion, and forbearance, and 5 sets of gentle exercises, including meditation. But because in 1999 there were more Falun Gong people or Falun Gong practitioners than the CCP party members. So the party decided to crack down on this, and I was thus sent to a labor camp, also to be reformed or to be transformed to change our thoughts about Falun Gong. So basically, our life inside the camp consisted of 3 parts. 1, endless torture. 2, endless slave hard labor. The third part was to be kept there as potential organ donors, which means if our organs happen to match anybody who needs an organ for organ transplant, we could be killed on demand so that our organs can be sold to this patient who need an organ so that the labor camp can make huge amount of money. But today I won't talk about any of those parts. I'd like only to share 3 stories that related to this BBC video to let everyone know why you cannot trust anything you see inside the camp when you are allowed to go inside there to film and to look. So the first story is about our food. Inside the camp, we were given very, very bad food. But one day, when there are going to be visitors in the camp, we were suddenly given so many pork ribs, which we had never eaten, never seen inside the camp. In usual time, if we were given so many very nicely cooked pork ribs for food, we would have been overjoyed by such special treatment. But that day, this kind of specially cooked pork rib became a torture to us. Why? Because in order to show to the visitors how well we were treated, we were given so many pork ribs, and actually we couldn't finish eating them. The problem is because we were given very limited time to eat. We could only eat when the police says eat, and we had to stop sharp when the police said stop. So the time was extremely short. We couldn't finish it, but we were not allowed in the camp to leave any food uneaten, or nor could we take back what we couldn't finish to our dorm so that we can eat maybe in the afternoon or keep it for another meal. That was not allowed. And also because we knew the time was very, very tight, so everybody was eating this way too many pork ribs like mad. And that day, I would never imagine delicious food could also become a torture because you just couldn't finish that many. And I remember the image beside me. She pretended, because she really couldn't finish that many, she pretended to accidentally drop his bowl on the floor so that she got an excuse. She didn't need to eat anymore. But when I watched her clean up the food, she almost cried because she felt so bad about having to throw away such delicious food which we couldn't dream of in ordinary days. And sure enough, from that day on, we were never given any such good food or so many food in one meal again, never ever again in the camp. So, and the story is, the visitors were not reporters, let alone were not BBC reporters, were not foreign reporters. The visitors were only other police officers from other camps and the supervisor maybe of the labor camp system. So this means that the police or the labor camp would even deceive their own comrades, their own supervisors. So what would you expect if you are an outsider, you are a reporter, and you are an international reporter? Would you expect to find any truth there if you were allowed there to visit? Another story I would like to share is about the flowers. October 1st is the National Day of China, and the labor camp was going to expect visitors. So the labor camp decided that it had to decorate the labor camp to make it look very beautiful. So they bought a lot of flower pots and put them in the playground in a very nice formation to have a beautiful shape. So they have these flowers put there to show to the visitors that how beautiful, what a good environment that the images were having. So altogether, they've bought some hundreds of flower pots to decorate the labor camp. So one day after every flower pot was put in space, suddenly it started raining heavily with thunder. It's like a thunderstorm. But the visitors haven't arrived to see the flowers yet. So if the flowers were left in the outside in the courtyard, they would totally be damaged by such heavy rain. So the police ordered us to quickly and swiftly transport all the flower pots inside the auditorium of the labor camp so they would not be damaged by the heavy rain. The problem is, because it was raining so heavily, if you want to move the flower pots, you could not hold an umbrella, and we didn't have an umbrella inside the camp in the first place. And because I had only one pair of shoes, I didn't want to wear it inside the rain if it got wet. I had no way to dry it up very soon, so I had nothing to wear on the next day. So I chose to transport the flower pot with bare feet. And because there were so many little stones or even glass pieces or whatever sharp obstacles on the ground, so soon my feet started bleeding. So in that way, in a very heavy rain, and with bare feet, I was moving and protecting the flowers from outside to the indoor auditorium, so that the flowers would not be damaged, so that they could be moved out again when the rain was over, for the visitors to see how beautifully the labor camp was decorated. So they only care about whether the labor camp looks good, whether the flowers were damaged. They never care or never worry whether we could get sick after became wet all over our body in the heavy rain, and whether our feet were wounded during the process when we were forced to move the flowers. So that is the price we had to pay to get the labor camp look beautiful. A third story I'd like to share is around the Chinese New Year time. The labor camp somehow suddenly decided that they would like to not only decorate the outside environment of the labor camp, but also the dormitory, the dorms or the cells of the labor camp. So they decided to put some golden fish, a tank of golden fish inside every dorm. Although every day we were tired to death because of the slave labor, we had also need to look after those goldfish in the tanks to make sure that they don't die. We need to give them fresh water, give them proper food, so they look nice. So the purpose to have the fish tank, the goldfish tank, inside this dorm is also to show to the visitors what a leisurely life we are having. We are enjoying our pets like goldfish. We are enjoying watching them and admiring their beauty. So initially, the labor camp bought a lot of goldfish, but somehow those goldfish, I'm not sure because the air inside the labor camp could be too bad, so many of them died. And the labor camp didn't want to spend more money to buy them because they are very expensive, especially in wintertime. So later on, they figured out what to do. They actually forced the family members of the image to, if you want to go to the labor camp to visit your family, each of them was required by the labor camp to buy some goldfish. So it was the coldest weather in the winter. So some family members had to go to the market to try to look them everywhere. Not every market has those things to sell. So they spend a lot of efforts working very hard to buy some. So on the day when they are going to visit the labor camp, because the weather was so cold outside, the temperature outdoor was below zero, was below frozen point. So those family members, they put the goldfish into a plastic bag full of water. So on the way to the labor camp, in order that the water didn't got frozen, so in order that this fish would not die, some of family members had to put the fish underneath their clothing to keep it from becoming frozen. So in this way, they bring all the goldfish to the camp. And because that was a visiting day for the labor camp, each of them brings several pieces of goldfish, and suddenly there were too many goldfish in the camp, and there were not enough water container to put or to maintain all those goldfish. Soon all of them died. So only after that episode, the neighbor camp finally decided maybe keeping a tank of goldfish in each dormitory is not a good idea. So they stopped doing that. So from my own experience, and I hope from the 3 small stories I shared today, you will understand that the labor camp system or the police in the labor camp have been always trying to deceiving the outside world about what the life really is inside the camp. And when I was detained in the camp, we were also forced to learn some kind of folk style dance in Chinese called 扭秧歌. I don't know whether there's any similar things in the Western society. Anyway, we were forced to learn to dance that kind of folk dance to celebrate how we are having a new life in the labor camp. So when they were visitors, we were also forced to dance, put on a happy face and to dance to show the visitors what kind of a happy life we were having. And also I remember there was some kind of library, fitness room or game room on the top level of our dorm building. Usually we were never allowed to use those facilities. But when there were visitors, we were forced to use these facilities, playing poker, playing basketball, or playing chess, or reading nice books to show the outside world what a happy life we had inside the camp. So I hope the world will not be deceived by what the CCP is telling you, and I hope the world will do more to end the religious persecution in China and to free all the inmates who were detained because of their faith, their religious beliefs, their race, or their political ideas. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope I will share you more stories in the future.